Raise your hand if you're easily moved to tears for me. Let's be honest. Y'all are so screwed. If you think about it, at its core, what we do in this industry is connect people. At the least, we connect people with products and services and businesses. At our best, we connect people to new ideas, to new careers, to movements. As marketers, it's our job to move people from point A to point B. We make them choose. We make them act. Let me tell you something any good marketer or car salesman or neuroscientist will tell you. People don't act on logic. They act on emotion. We all want to think we're rational, logical, adult human beings, but study after study says that when it comes to buying, we're just not. For their book, Brand Immortality, Pringle and Field looked at 1,400 ad campaigns over the last 30 years. This is what they discovered. Ads that were purely rational performed tolerably at 16% effectiveness. Ads that had some element of emotion knocked that way up an entire 10 percentage points to 26% effectiveness. Now, you'd think that appealing to logic and emotion would give you the best of both worlds. But it turns out the highest performing ads from the last 30 years ran on emotion only and were 31% effective, twice the impact of rational argument. Anyone who's been engaged knows this. Look at a proposal logically. You spent a small fortune on a shiny piece of carbon just so you could hold it in someone's face and ask them to sign a semi-binding social contract with you. Is any of that logical? Of course not. Does her answer really depend on the cut, clarity, color, carat, cost? Let's hope not. And the jewelry industry doesn't show ads about how pure their carbon is. They show ads with romantic walks through fall leaves in the park and people kissing as they overlook the city lights. Treasured moments. They sell love, not diamonds, because that's really what we want. The Advertising Research Foundation ran up against the same conclusion. People respond not to research or trust or hard facts or features. They respond particularly to the emotion of likability. Anyone heard of the Facebook agree button or the my independent data supports your conclusion button? No, it's the like button. It's so simple, it's stupid. They just have to like you. But that's the problem, isn't it? How the hell do you get them to like you? If you want to get people to break out of their inertia, to stop doing what they've been doing, to start something new, to change their minds, buy a condo, switch internet service providers, click buy. If you want these people to like you, you have to hit them where it counts, in the feels. And you know what? It doesn't even have to be a good emotion. You can make them laugh. You can piss them off. Make them curious, make them scared, make them sad, make them sorry. And why is that? If they feel, they care. If they care, they act. There's one human vehicle that has carried emotion, connection, the essence of caring, since humans could talk, and that's story. Let's talk about the power of story. To connect, to heal, to change. First off, what do I mean by story? I'm not talking about imagination, like the most interesting man in the world or the Jolly Green Giant. That's not what I'm talking about. When I say you need to tell a story, I mean you need to tell a real story, a true story, or at least a story with truth at its core, and use that to build an emotional bridge to your audience. Your story shows who you are. It becomes the persona people talk to, buy from, interact with. It's something they can use to put a face on a brand. Your story makes them care about what you have to offer, sometimes even more than what you're offering. Today I'm going to tell you a story. It's a story about how I launched my marketing career, an example of how you can reach your own goals with the power of a great narrative. Started with a goal. It was February 2009. Internet marketing was becoming even more mainstream with big brands. They were finally accepting how much money they were leaving on the table by ignoring this internet thing. And Google was responding by showing heavy favoritism in search results for big brands. Offline, CNN Money said it was the worst year for jobs since 1945. Hard times for the little guys all around. My story starts when my 60-year-old father was laid off from a job he needed, and we decided to join forces and start a marketing agency. With his sales experience and my online marketing experience, it was worth a shot. This was my goal. I wanted to prove that there was hope in the internet for the little guy. Initially, I wanted to find a small business owner in my local town and unlock the power of the internet for them and lift them from the brink of business failure to great success. Our business was unknown, and this would give us some great PR. I wanted to prove anyone could use the internet to market anything, and I wanted to prove that I was the guy and my agency was the agency to make that happen. To tell a good story, you're going to need what every story needs, a good hero. I'm not talking about Katniss storming President Snow in the Capitol, or the future of Middle-earth resting in the hands of a young hobbit. It's just got to be somebody who fights an uphill battle and fights hard. Your hero might be the ideal customer. You illustrate their biggest problem and reveal how your brand saves the day. But don't limit yourself to that line of thinking. There's heroes everywhere. In fact, I bet big money a great hero's flying way under your radar right now. It may not be who you think it is. It could be someone in this room who you'll never meet if you don't introduce yourself. I hope today I can convince you to think outside the box about who your hero might be and tap into the stories all around you. For example, what if I told you the hero of my story was a homeless man I found under a bridge? Sounds kind of crazy, right? How could a random panhandler have anything to do with my marketing agency, my brand? But that's exactly who my hero was, this guy. My father and I needed a case study, a white paper, for a fledgling business, something that we could show prospective clients. I was on the lookout for that failing business to save. I pulled up to a stoplight one day and saw something strange, a 30-something woman in a suit holding a sign asking for a job. And it struck a chord in me. She looked very out of place, and I wondered if she really ran out of all other options. And it stayed with me for a few days. I never saw her again, hopefully for good reasons. But all of a sudden, I started seeing homeless people everywhere. I wasn't sure if they were new or if I just hadn't noticed them before. Either way, I started paying more attention over the next couple of days, and as a naive youngster in my 20s, I looked at the problem of homelessness very superficially. I thought panhandling looked very inefficient. They could only get cash from one lane of traffic, and only in the few seconds between traffic light changes. They miss out on everyone who gets an all-green light. They could only go a few cars back before the pressure of holding up traffic is greater than the would-be givers are willing to wait. But most importantly, most people ignored them. Most avoided eye contact. I realized then that I had probably been guilty of the same thing. I decided that this was a terrible business model. As I watched, I realized that the people passing them during the morning drive were passing the same guys every day. And the more they passed them, the more normal it was to keep passing them by. And the more bizarre it would have seemed to all of a sudden roll down your window and have a 30-second chat with them. Besides, who knows what they might do? They could be dangerous. They could be fake. You don't know anything about them. If you're on your way to work, why should you give this person money not to? Why should you care? And that's when it hit me. What if our pro bono case study was to help a homeless person instead? Figure out what's keeping them down, leverage the internet to help them break free from whatever's holding them down, let them define the success on their terms, and follow them through to whatever end as best as we could. So as a marketer, my first thought was this person needs a new sign, one that really gets attention. They also needed a website. Instead of asking for donations to be transacted on the street, they could send people to a website to donate there. No more logistical or safety issues of panhandling in the street. Panhandling is also illegal in Houston, but the local officers tend to turn a blind eye as long as they stay out of the road. Ironically, the rest get tickets. How do you think they pay for those tickets? But the website could also solve another problem. It would give them an online profile. People could get to know them from a comfortable, anonymous, safe distance. One morning, my father and I decided to introduce ourselves. We got out of the car, walked under the bridge of Highway 6 and I-10 in Houston, Texas, a few blocks from my house. I walked up to 3 men in a pit bull. The men were kind of skittish, like they didn't know whether to expect trouble or not. My bigger concern was the dog. I remember nervously eyeing the grip of the old man holding his leash. We made some introductions and shook hands all around. Then there was this awkward pause. I was all out of small talk. I didn't have much to start with. And they were clearly wondering what I was doing, why I parked at the Waffle House, crossed the feeder, and approached them under the bridge. So I worked up the nerve, concerned how they might react, and I told them, we're wondering if one of you might be interested in this project. We want to build a website about one of you, and allow people to get to know you and donate to you and help you get off the street. They just sat there for a moment. Then the taller man in the middle asked, "So what are you going to call this website?" With the straightest, most confident face I could muster, I said, "PimpThisBum.com." And they busted out laughing. After the man in the middle caught his breath, he stood up and said, "I'll do it." So we started filming him, built him a website, promoted the hell out of it, and we got to know Tim. Tell us your full name.
Timothy Dolan.
And Timothy, how long have you been on the street?
Oh, almost 5 years now.
How'd you end up here?
Well, long. It's a pretty drawn out story.
Yeah, not enough tape.
Not enough tape, yeah.
All right.
It's a pretty drawn out story. If God puts it on your heart to help this particular individual,
Right.
because we are particular individuals. I mean, don't go out there and try to help the homeless, because we are not the homeless. We are people.
Go ahead.
Welcome to my humble abode. This used to be some sort of business. Apparently at some point, but you can't really smell it too much right now, but the stench of urine is pretty strong.
I can smell it.
Apparently it used to be a restaurant at some point.
Right.
So I think this is very ironic. I think this is incredibly ironic. Here's where it all takes place.
Yes. look at the shape he's in. I mean,
Yeah, I mean, look at him.
take really good care of him.
There ain't can you see any ribs?
Nope.
We are not generally a bunch of nutcases.
Not generally, but in this case,
Hey! Get out of here. I mean, we're just like regular Joes. We just have a different grip on life.
and somebody comes by on the corner and brings me food, more than I can possibly eat, I share food with Bobby. If I don't have enough money for a beer, and John had a good day on the corner, he throws me down a little bit of money so I can get a beer, so I don't have to shake, so I don't have to go through GTs that day. It's taught me a sense of community. It's taught me how to share. It's taught me how to ask for help when I need help. It's easy to give help, but it's very difficult to ask for help. You guys out there, and hearing how there's so many people out there that actually care. I mean, that means a lot. I mean, that means a lot. People are warming up a lot. They're starting to look at me like I'm a human being. Like, wow, this is not just a piece of wood in the street, you know?
Scenery. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, they're starting to smile, they're starting to wave, and they're talking to me more. I mean, that alone has been worth it.
That's it. It starts Monday.
Oh, wow.
Get on an airplane, cut your beard. That'll be fun. Saturday or Friday or something. Cut your beard off. Sunday maybe.
Yeah.
So, anyway. It's going to be fun.
I'm excited, but I mean, now that we got an actual date, I'm a little worried. So once, but as scary as it was when I hit the streets.
Yeah.
I mean, when I first hit the streets, I literally thought I was going to lose my mind. I was praying. I literally had to sit there and pray to God, don't let me lose my mind. The fear was just so great.
Well,
He got me through the night, and then the next day I got. I ran into some folks and they helped me out, and they showed me a few things, how to survive on the street and everything. But it's, change is scary, especially big change.
Sure.
I'm hoping this is a big change.
easy to give, it's very difficult to ask for help. Isn't that true? If I came into this with half-baked intentions just to get some web traffic and make a few bucks off Tim, this whole thing would have crashed and burned. If Tim had gotten into this looking to make a few extra bucks and then go right back to life on the street, we wouldn't have gotten very far. You have to have conviction and authenticity, and that's very hard to fake. Let's look at an example of a well-known brand achieving great success with purely emotional appeal. Many of you have probably seen Dove's 2013 Real Beauty campaign. It's a great example. One of the campaign videos, they hired a retired New York City Police Department sketch artist and brought women in to describe themselves to him of how they look. They were kept separated by a sheet so the sketch artist and subject couldn't see each other as he asked these questions, and she described her appearances to him. Then they had another person who the subject just met in the lobby earlier come in and describe the same woman. The results? The sketches described by the strangers were happier, prettier, and more confident than the self-described images. You see the reactions of these women as they view how others perceive them compared to how they perceive themselves, and it's a big wake-up call. You see the light bulb go off that just maybe they're more beautiful than they think. And Dove reinforces that. This campaign resulted in not millions, but billions of dollars in revenue for Dove. And what did we learn about Dove from the commercial? Nothing. In fact, only in the last 5 seconds of the commercial do you see the brand mentioned at all, with a URL and an invitation to experience more. More what? More feels. Dove achieved this with real women and hundreds of thousands of dollars of marketing, research, and development. Is there any chance I can evoke comparable emotions from you today with a budget of $0 and a homeless man? I hope so. From the very first day we had live video streaming of Tim on the street, my initial motivation for this was to legitimize it. If someone heard about Tim at work, I wanted them to see Tim when they visited the website. I wanted someone who saw Tim on the way to work be able to share the exact experience with others. I let the audience in. What I didn't plan on was just how engaged people would get. Immediately, they started asking questions about Tim. Where did he grow up? Why is he homeless? Where does he sleep? Does he have any family? What's his favorite color? That led into questions about his childhood, what it was like. What happened to all of his family? How does somebody end up with nobody in the world to reach out to? Tim started telling them everything. His mother passed away years ago. His father abandoned him at 2. Years and years of bad relationships with people, drugs, and alcohol, abandonment issues. As someone once explained it to me, when you feel like dirt on the inside, you live in dirt on the outside. He spent 5 long years on the streets of Houston before we met him. He barely survived sleeping under an overpass during Hurricane Ike. They were insiders now. They were part of Tim's story. They were connecting with him by means of a powerful emotion, fear. Some were thinking, if this could happen to Tim, maybe it could happen to me. Or at least, this could have been me if I was dealt Tim's cards. And how would that feel? That, friends, is how empathy happens. That's where love begins. Through all this love and support, Tim began to change. He was hopeful, more confident. And he wasn't the only one being changed by this experience. A woman in the chat room explained that her son committed suicide months before, and being able to watch Tim's journey and in some small way to be the mother he didn't have was helping her heal. A group of men in a veterans hospital in Wisconsin chimed in regularly. They said Tim was giving them hope. And all of this hit Tim very hard in his feels. It wasn't just about him anymore. And that was a big part of what kept moving him forward on his journey. It went both ways. We let the audience into Tim's story, but he entered their stories too. He asked about their struggles. He cheered them on. Together they called themselves the Bumpkins. One of them made this family tree of usernames and locations of some of the core group to remind him of his supporters. It became a family of hundreds of regulars and thousands of in-and-outers. And one particular night, in front of thousands of viewers across the world, Tim went through a very dramatic transformation and received an email from a stranger.
The moment we've all been waiting for.
The unmasking of Tim. Who's that man behind the beard?
Get the hat off your head.
Take the hat off too.
Look at that, baby. I ain't seen this in years. He's actually got skin under here.
I'm back into the fight. I'm tired of laying down. I'm tired of giving up. This life is worth fighting for. It's worth fighting for. You're not speaking to the same person that I was when I met the Dolans. I've gone through little changes.
Do you know there are people who really care?
I'm starting. Just the other day, I started to realize that. Yeah, somebody typed in the other night. My 6-year-old has to go to bed right now, but he said he said to tell you that he's praying for Mr. Tim. And that's when I started to realize that there's actually people out there who do care. Sean's mom, Kevin's wife, took me down, and we got a lot of clothes with the money that was sent in. So I have some new clothes, and I got rid of my old hair, and I'm going to detox and rehab, start living a new life.
Do you feel? I mean, did you feel like you were abandoned by him?
I was abandoned by him.
Do you think he didn't care? Is that something that stayed with you throughout your life?
I was bitter about it for a long time, and I probably still have some bitterness in me for that.
Saw Tim in her paper today, and she called me to tell me that she thought Tim looked a lot like Uncle Jim Edwards.
Jim Edwards, James Dale Edwards.
I'm wondering if Tim Edwards is my cousin, Timothy Dale Edwards. His mother divorced Jim Edwards many years ago, and she took the children, making sure Jim and our family were unable to contact their 2 children. The last time I saw Tim Edwards was in Pacific Grove or Carmel, California in 1972, when his mother and dad were still together. My cousin Terry Edwards tried to find the 2 boys, but was unable. Their dad also hired detectives and was unable to find them. Jim Edwards died a few years ago. If Tim is my cousin, I would love to hear from him. We always wondered if the 2 boys were safe and well. He might be interested in hearing about his dad, if he is my cousin.
I saw pictures of my father when I was older, and I was telling you this.
Yeah.
It was like I was looking in the mirror. He dressed just like I did.
She said you are you laugh like the Edwards. She said that the Edwards family in Nashville is please don't worry, there's nothing perfect about them.
But don't worry, there's nothing perfect about me either.
and they are really, really looking forward to getting together with you and making you, part of the family.
James Dale Edwards.
Turned out, his mother was not very forthcoming about the events of their divorce. His father had been searching for him for 35 years, up until he passed away. On top of that, Tim hadn't made himself particularly easy to find. All of this because we let them in. But without leveraging media, they wouldn't have known him at all. In order to sell a story, you need to package and promote it. There's no if you build it, they will come. You have to lay the groundwork and give your story a push. I planned the marketing launch for pimpthisbum.com just after Valentine's Day. Based on my experience in radio, this would be a slow news day and give us a better opportunity to get noticed. Before we went live, I collected hundreds of media contacts, tip line emails for radio, television, newspapers, and podcasts. At 4 a.m. the day of, I fired these emails off, hoping that they would be the first thing folks saw in the morning when they checked their email. And when curiosity struck and they clicked the link, they'd see Tim. During the morning radio drive around 5:30 a.m., I had folks calling into the local radio stations, hounding the producers. Some of them were calling to spout off about how offensive it was. Pimp this bum, really? They're exploiting him. Others were calling us saints. I knew what a gift it was to have a ready-made story to fill time on a slow day. We fed them controversy. We put the story in a box, wrapped it, and put a bow on it. We sent this to everyone we could think of, hoping we get a bite, and they bit. The first was the same morning, I got a call from a radio station telling me how great they thought our project was. In fact, they said many of their fans had been calling. Soon after, I was sharing Tim's story on one of the most popular morning radio shows in Houston. Then we received emails from local television stations, the NBC affiliate, Fox affiliate, WB affiliate, all asking to interview Tim. By the evening of the second day, my family huddled impatiently around the television to watch the 10 o'clock local news.
At least one homeless man in Houston has a brand new job.
Yeah, it's part of an internet experiment to get him some help, but is it at the expense of his dignity? KPRC Local 2 reporter Joel Eisenbaum now with a look at this bizarre proposition that we know is going to get some buzz, Joel.
That's a good way to explain it. Met an interesting guy tonight. He's about my age, doesn't like to talk about why he's homeless, but he sleeps under an overpass most nights. Still, he's got something he didn't have yesterday, and that's hope.
Some days are better, some days are worse.
For Tim Edwards, 37 years old and homeless, this is one of the good days.
Tonight, I know I'm gonna have something to eat, and I'm gonna be all right.
Tim's new outlook is thanks, he says, to a new job. Really, it's his same job, panhandling, but he now holds a new sign advertising a new website called pimpthisbum.com.
We had to make it kind of edgy to get that exposure and have people talking about it.
The site is all about Tim and solicits donations on his behalf. You can buy him anything from a cheeseburger to laser hair removal to a college education. There's also streaming video to see what Tim's up to now.
We're going to pay him $100, and he gets anything that comes in on the site.
But has this father and son marketing team from Houston crossed the line? Are they exploiting Tim?
You're going to find people that are offended by anything you do.
I view the situation to be mutually beneficial. I think they're getting help, and I'm getting help.
Tim is less concerned with public image and more concerned about food and shelter. And if a couple of guys want to pay him to do what he already does, well, that's just fine by him.
This might be an avenue off the streets. This might be a way that I can climb up a little bit and get out of here.
Kevin and Sean Dolan pay Tim no less than $100 per day, but there's no guarantee how long that will last. Tim says he wants to save up to get some temporary housing and a shave. Joel Eisenbaum, KPRC Local 2.
So that was pretty cool, local news. We had no idea how insane things we'd get after that. We began receiving interview requests from the Houston Chronicle locally, and then the New York Times and the Washington Post, and Sydney Morning Herald, the Associated Press, and dozens more. Then we received calls from television shows. Fox and Friends morning show had us on to do a live segment. The Rachel Ray Show, Man Cow Morning Show, Michael Reagan, CNN Money, ABC, Der Spiegel in Germany. Eventually Larry King reached out for an interview. My Google alert for Pimp This Bum was going nuts. And of them all, the most important mention in Alabama's Dothan Eagle, where Tim's aunt discovered her long-lost cousin. One of my favorite parts of this setup was the first day when the news would say, over 30,000 visits to pimpthisbum.com already. You guys know it's really easy to mess with the hit counter, right? So the very first person to the site was the 27,001st visitor to pimpthisbum.com. So by the time the news saw it, it was a good 28, 29, 30,000. I gave the media the social proof to help justify running the story. After we clocked 1 million visits, it didn't matter. The moral here is if you want to catch lightning in a bottle, you have to find the highest point. You better bring a bottle. And it wouldn't hurt to be holding a few lightning rods as high as you can. You have to commit to it. Yes, luck happens. But if you want it to happen to you, you better pave a really nice landing strip for it. I've told people over and over, if the website was helpthehomeless.org, everyone would have passed it by just like they passed Tim every morning. We had to be different. We had to be controversial. We had to make them feel something, or nobody would have cared. Yes, on the surface it was crass and irreverent, but once you became involved for even a few minutes, you understood it, and you were in it. Was it orchestrated? Yes. Manipulated? You bet. But above all that, the story was real. The story was authentic. In the meantime, money for Tim was pouring in, first from Houston, then all over the US, then Canada, Germany, Sweden, Greece, Italy, Denmark, Australia, as far as Hong Kong. Many were $5 or $10 donations from people who visited the site. Some were thousands or tens of thousands of dollars at a time. They all wanted to invest in Tim, in his story, in his success, because we made sure the audience had a way in. They did it because they became part of Tim's story, and that's how we raised $100,000 in about 4 months. Every good story has a low point in our jobs. This is the busy work. It's the stuff that doesn't feel rewarding or happy. It's slogging through phone calls and interviews and aggregating data and parsing it out until it means something. In our story, Tim had to do the hard work. Like so many of his friends on the street, he'd become an alcoholic. He was so dependent on alcohol, he couldn't get through a night's sleep without it. He drank 740s a day and ate practically nothing. For him to really break free, he was going to have to get through rehab and get clean. And as anyone familiar with addicts knows, this was something he had to commit to and follow through with for himself. All we could do was get him to rehab, drop him off, and cheer him on. It would have been really easy to skip over this part of Tim's story, as far as the world was concerned. We could have kept up the video chats and donations every day until people lost interest and moved on. In fact, Larry King was denied that one-on-one interview with Tim because his rehab program had already started. We were all in this for real. We had a goal, along with Tim and thousands of bumpkins. We were going to see him through until Tim could do it on his own. Going through the pain of withdrawals and rehab was part of the process. It's what turned a publicity stunt into a legitimate journey. Don't shy away from that. Don't gloss over it hoping to mask it. The flaws, the painful parts of the process, that's what makes a story a story.
2 pills 4 times a day.
For the rest of the day.
For the rest of the day. We'll be seeing you very early tomorrow morning, so probably before your dose. So
Okay,
that's how you're feeling at that point.
That's good, yeah. Perfect.
Yeah. All right.
I've just taken my first medication, and it's battling my alcohol. It's indescribable feeling. It's something that I hope nobody has to go through out there.
So when's the last time you ate dinner at a dinner table? Curious.
Man.
Can you remember?
2001.
Like the first step is admitting you're an alcoholic and that your life has become unmanageable.
Done that.
I was gonna say.
I already got there. What's the second step? Second day I feel rotten. Rotten inside. My guts are not agreeing with me. In fact, we're having a fight right now.
Who's winning?
The guts are. But I feel a lot better than I would if I was doing this on my own. We can get it through. But it's gonna be a little bit of a battle right now.
We're recording.
I can hear his big mouth already. Right to the computer now, knows how to move stuff around.
Hey folks, thank you so much. Man, look at all those happy birthdays. Thank you so much.
Yep.
Yeah. Put me on the spot.
What, you shy on this thing?
Yeah, I'm shy on this.
We gotta get the cake and everything ready.
Well, like I said, I get to celebrate this year, and I'm another year further down. I really should have seen this coming, folks. I really should have seen this coming.
You don't look good without hair.
That says HP. Yeah. Right. Yeah. Ooh, wait. Look at that. That is excellent.
Yeah, so thank them, man. It's all them.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. This is awesome. This is actually the first computer I've ever owned myself. So I'd always use other people's computers and stuff.
birthday.
This is like the best birthday ever, dude.
Yeah.
This is awesome, man. Oh, dude. Oh, these guys are killing me.
After all these years thinking he was alone in the world, Tim's last remaining family found him in a newspaper because of a crazy idea on a website with a silly name. Click to Houston did a follow-up on Tim's story once he arrived back from rehab.
New at 10, we introduced you to him when he was becoming an internet star. Well, now he's starting over.
He's just one of thousands of homeless people in Houston. The difference is he became a celebrity for it. KPRC Local 2 reporter Joel Eisenbaum covered this controversial story months ago. And tonight, Joel has an interesting update from West Houston. Joel?
And guys, tonight we were at Highway 6 and the Katy Freeway. This is the spot where 38-year-old Tim Edwards used to live. In fact, he used to sleep right under that bridge. Some of his friends still do, but he got out, and this is the story of how he did it. It was back in February when we first met Tim Edwards.
Some days are better, some days are worse.
He was homeless, disheveled, an alcoholic, and quite frankly, near the end of his rope.
Hey guys, how you doing?
Hey.
It's great to see you.
See you,
Man, you look great.
Thank you.
Really do.
This is Tim Edwards today, fresh out of rehab, clean shaven, looking for a job, and he says reborn.
I wake up, I'm excited. I mean, life is something that's bright and good. It's not something to be endured.
The miraculous transformation is not only thanks to Tim's fortitude, but a father and son team, the Dolans. Months ago, they started a tongue-in-cheek website to highlight homelessness, but they needed a star and chose Tim.
I was like, well, okay, so what are you going to call this website? And then he said, well, pimpthisbum.com. And we all just started laughing.
Initially, not everyone thought pimpthisbum.com was that funny. There were murmurs about exploitation. What did these guys really care about a homeless man anyway?
I think as time went on, less and less thought that. I mean, there's some people in the beginning early, and I think when they saw that he was going to detox, they knew our heart was in the right place.
The story that is developed through this is beyond anything we could have possibly, imagined.
People from all over the world have donated money to Tim, and a rehab center in Seattle offered to take him in for free. He said yes after a sobering realization.
I caught a shadow of myself on the wall with the beard and the 40 in my hand, kind of hunched over. I looked at the time, and it's 4:30, and I realized I can't get a job like this.
Tim is now headed to Nashville. He found out he has family there. He says he is determined to not mess this up, just like he told us when we first met him.
This might be an avenue off the streets. It might be a way that I can climb up a little bit and get out of here.
So no more sleeping on crates for Tim Edwards. There is one small hitch, though. He says he has to take care of a few panhandling tickets here in Houston before heading to Nashville. We're live on the west side tonight. I'm Joel Eisenbaum, KPRC Local 2.
Immediately following rehab, Tim came back to Houston. We threw a party for him, and bumpkins from all over the country came to congratulate him, take pictures with him, and hug him. It's a pretty strange experience for him. He said it felt like his high school prom, which he then remembered he didn't go to, so it was the makeup prom. After that, he went to visit his family in Missouri and Nashville to finally reconnect. Here he is with Aunt Juanita on the left, learning about his father, and on the right there, he's visiting the land that his father lived on when he passed away. Then on to Nashville, where Tim has a whole gang of aunts, uncles, cousins, nieces, and nephews. It wasn't easy, but he eventually found a job at a machine shop building scale models for companies like Schlumberger and NOV that are showcased at trade shows around the world to this day. All of these experiences, every big moment, was captured and shared with the audience.
The website is called pimpthisbum.com. Going too far?
I have a big problem with the name of the website.
Pimp this bum.
Pimp this bum.
Yeah.
Bum.
It's
a terrible word. They're not bums.
Exactly.
They're relatives.
I've been thinking, well, there's this little space in our hearts that Tim and his brother left. That from the time we couldn't see him, there was a space that was theirs and that was empty, and that we longed to know them and see them and hug them and feel them.
There was always that feeling that something was missing in my life.
It was us.
It was you. And I'm glad to have you guys.
I'm glad to have you too, sweetheart.
This is my cousin-in-law.
I'm Cliff.
And we're here in Independence, Missouri. And he was also my dad's best friend.
And I miss his dad. I wish Tim could have known him.
Sweet. Cliff handed it down to it's my dad's or mine.
Just say hi. Pearls of wisdom. I need pearls of wisdom. Hi, I'm Emily. I'm Tim's cousin.
My name is John. I am Tim's cousin. I have not seen Tim for, I am guessing about 45 years.
He's not 45.
How old are you?
He's 38.
Well, it's been about 37 years.
I'm John Edwards, and I'm Tim's uncle. I'm very thankful after all these years to get us to see him.
It's my family. I didn't know I had him, now I have him. It's one of the best things to come out of this. So, I hope you enjoy him as much as I do.
And you're not getting rid of us. You're stuck.
That's what Deb said. She's like, I'm stuck.
You're stuck.
This is not just a piece of wood in the street, you know? Yeah, I mean, they're starting to smile, they're starting to wave, and they're talking to me more. And, I mean, that alone has been worth it. I couldn't even begin to thank you all. But, wow. For what it's worth, thank you. Thank you so much.
On May 17, 2009 at 9 a.m., exactly 2 months from the day this all started, Tim tossed a half-finished beer into the trash as he walked into the Seattle Detox Center. Then successfully completed a 5-week rehab program. Now, keeping in mind that over 90% alcoholics coming out of rehab relapse, he had a very long, hard road ahead of him. He made deep connections with strangers from across the world and long-lost family from his past. He felt human again. He found hope. All that story from one person. So what stories are you passing by every day? Maybe you passed by one this morning. Maybe there's a story sitting next to you right now. It's the million-dollar question. What did we get out of this? Money? Nope. That all went to Tim, his friends, and the homeless that we helped after him. Fame? Sure, briefly. That doesn't always turn into money, and it goes away very quickly. A good story? Absolutely. The story is what made the difference. It gave me a chance to show what I'm made of, not only to others, but to myself. Tim taught me to ask for help when I need it. He taught me to see past appearances and to get to really know people, family, friends, neighbors, employees, clients. Anytime I faced a challenge, I remember Tim's story, Tim facing his challenges, and it gives me hope, gives me courage. Tim's story taught me to ignore hate and remove toxic people from my life, to not feed the trolls. I experienced a real-life example of the effect of a parent dealing a child a bad hand. Today, with 3 children of my own, I realize the great responsibility that I have. So what can you learn from this? What's the marketing takeaway? If you find me likable after hearing me tell you this story, then you already know. That's the power of story. And while we lit the match, the greatest success of this story wasn't ours. That belongs to Tim and the community that he drew in. The many who cheer him on to this day. Many who were helped through their struggles, the many who received hope. We found the hero, we told the story, we made them care. And that's all anyone can do. That's what you can do. Find your hero, tell your story, make them care. Now, many people after hearing this story want to know, like, how's Tim doing today, right? Did he stay sober? Did he stay off the streets? Maybe some of you are asking yourselves the same question right now. And I've been telling this story and answering those questions for almost 8 years. But giving my first keynote here, this is a very special occasion. So please show some love for Timothy Dale Edwards. There you go. So we don't really have this part planned, but I've got a couple of the most common questions, and we'll make it really short. I know we're running out of time. Some of the more popular questions we get are you still sober?
Still sober. I haven't had a drink since 2009, March 10th, 2009.
The other one was, were you really homeless?
I promise.
And I guess, what else? I had one more question. We've got an audience here of a lot of people that after hearing this story may want to help the homeless. Are there any kind of tips, tricks, things they can carry around in the car with them to kick down some stuff for people?
There's a lot of crazy homeless people out there, like for real. I mean, literally insane. When they emptied out the asylums, they emptied them out onto the streets. So if you see a homeless person, there's a really good chance that they are mentally unstable. I really wouldn't go up to a lot of these folks and just start chatting with them, because they could be dangerous. I don't suggest that you try to help the homeless, as like in the video. If you see someone and you pass by, one of the nicest things you could do to them is just say hi. Just acknowledge their existence. Look them in the eyes, say, hi, how you doing? And keep going. It reminds them that they're a human being. I remember one day I was in a church and this priest was talking about something or another, and he said that one day he walked by some lady and he said hello, and later on that day the lady came up and hugged him, and she was so isolated in her life, she said, that she decided that if, she was getting ready to end it, and just the act of him looking at her and saying hello reminded her that she was a human being, and kind of brought it back. It's easy to become dehumanized on the streets and to think this us and them thing. I mean, you guys were all them, and to you guys, the people on the streets are all kind of them. Oh, by the way, if you ever want a superhero ability, become homeless, you will be invisible. It's amazing. You get to see a lot of things in this world from that particular perspective. But if you want to help somebody, they don't have to be homeless. They could be the person that you run into on the street. Someone on the bus needs bus fare. I mean, helping people isn't restricted to one particular group. It's what's on your heart. If it's in your heart and you see an opportunity to help, I suggest you go for that.
Perfect. We'll go ahead and end it there. Thank you guys so much. Appreciate it. Tim will be around if you guys have any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.